Joining me right now to weigh in is the Director of Office of Management and Budget, Mick Mulvaney. Director Mulvaney, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. I like the outdoor studio.
Yes, so do we. A little cold. The President's use of the State of the Union wants to accomplish, I guess, what he's prepared to do in the second term. What should we expect tonight from your standpoint?
A lot of the reports, I think, have been accurate. I think you're going to see a very upbeat, very positive speech. He is going to start to reach across the aisle a little bit. We will talk about the successes that we've had in the past year. I think one thing that people sort of ignore about the government shutdown was the political angle of it last week, and that actually happened over the anniversary of the inauguration. I'm still convinced the Democrats did that in order to deny the president sort of that forum to talk about what a great first year the administration has had. So you see a little bit about that, and then a little bit of looking forward into what you can expect from next year.
And of course, we've seen a very good performance in terms of economics. When you come out with your budget in the next couple of weeks, are you going to talk about 3% growth, economic growth?
Yeah. In fact, it'll give me a chance to do one of those rare things that politicians love to do, which is to tell everybody I told you so. Because when we trotted out the budget last year, everybody on the left accused us of using economic assumptions that were just way too optimistic. We had, I think, 2.7% growth for this year, 2.9% for next year, and then 3% after that. And we're actually going to beat that already. So the numbers that everybody on the left said we would never achieve, we actually achieved faster than we thought we would.
I mean, there's expectations now that we're talking about 4% economic growth for 2018. Is that achievable?
We're not going to write that into the numbers, but I think what's being overlooked with the tax bill is it's been so long since we've had a tax bill that did as much as this tax bill did that people think in terms of short-term stimulus to the economy. And what we've able to accomplish over the course of the last year, not only with the tax bill, but with the deregulatory policies that we've put in place, we really do feel as if we've changed the fundamental structure of the American economy to where it's not a short-term stimulus, it's not a sugar high, that we've sort of been able to, we've now enabled the economy to have long-term economic health. So yeah, we think those numbers can stick around for a long time.
And certainly we're seeing it. We're also seeing it with companies actually trying to pass on some of that savings. Let me ask you about where we are today, and that is we're seeing interest rates creep up. Obviously, with a better economy comes higher interest rates. You've been talking about the 10-year yield all morning. Right around that level, that actually starts getting stock market investors nervous. How nervous are you when you see rates going higher now and expected to continue going higher for a good reason, for a good economy? But obviously that means our interest payments as a country go up as well.
And you hit the nail on the head, which is why would they be going up? If they're going up for some exogenous shock to the system, that is extraordinarily concerning. If they're creeping up because the economy is doing better and better, that sort of comes with the territory, right? But you're absolutely right. It's one of the reasons we tried to remind people, look, yes, this is one of the risks of the $20 trillion debt. When you're sitting on that much debt, every additional interest rate costs you a lot of money, several hundreds of billions of dollars over the course of a 10-year window. So yeah, we try and remind folks that growth is fantastic and we'll take it, but we also do pay very close attention to the interest rates.
So what about the debt right now? When does it become a real priority? I recognize that growth has been your priority. Yeah. Going into this State of the Union. But now we're talking about $1.5 trillion tax plan, talking about more money being spent on infrastructure if, in fact, that materializes. What do you do to cut back in terms of getting your arms around that?
Well, one of the things we talked about during the tax plan, when we were trying to sell the tax plan to convince folks to vote for it, was that, yes, you would see a short-term spike in the deficit because of the way the tax plan laid out. It would take a couple of years for the benefits to pay off. One of the things I don't think we've talked about yet this morning, I know very few people have talked about it, was the capital investment numbers that came out on Friday, almost 4 times what we expected. Those types of investments in America take time to pay off. So what you do is you have a short-term hit to the revenue side of the equation, but you have a long-term payoff. So you will see, I think, a temporary spike in the deficit, and then as the growth kicks in, the rest of our policies kick in, you see the deficit start to tail off. That's what you'll see in the budget.
But you've also got to see spending cuts in order to really move the needle there, right? I mean, you look at somebody like Amaya McGinnis and her group, the Committee for a Responsible Budget. She feels that, you need to actually come out with specifics in terms of cutting back spending in this upcoming budget.
Yeah, and spending restraint has always been part of the plan. It was part of the plan in last year's budget, will be part of the plan in this year's budget. We go back, Maria, to the last time we balanced the budget, which was in the late 1990s. There weren't really dramatic spending cuts at the time. There were some really good welfare reforms, but really what there was there was spending restraint combined with tremendous growth. And that's the same formula we're trying to get back to today.
Yeah, but we were talking about a $47 trillion budget, and you're talking about very little in terms of spending. Come on. You've got a lot of priorities. You've got to raise money for the military, raise those numbers. You've got to raise the numbers in terms of of infrastructure package. Are we talking about a $1.7 trillion infrastructure package, and how much of that is federal money?
Again, don't want to go into the specifics on the dollar amounts until we roll out the plan here, which I think is in the next week or two. But I do want to talk about that concept of how much of this is federal money. I think one of the things you're going to see are some really innovative ideas on how to stretch that federal dollar. Keep in mind, the large majority of infrastructure in this country is actually paid for by the state and local governments. The federal government, I think, only pays for about 20%, but we regulate 100% of it. So I think in addition to talking about how we're going to raise money, stretch federal dollars, you're also going to see about how we can make the money that's already there get on the ground faster by streamlining regulations.
So do you expect to balance the budget over a 10-year period, your 19 budget?
Hope so. Could be the longer we wait, we've said this for years, it'll be more and more difficult to do. I don't know the answer to that question.
And of course, with economic growth, that's always helpful. And then you want to keep seeing the numbers go up in terms of GDP.
Correct. And we'll track a couple things. We'll track, obviously, the nominal size of the deficit itself, but also the deficit as a percent of the GDP.